Thank you.
Speaking of development, the mayor's office has pushed two high-profile projects in recent months, the new Titans Stadium and a plan to bring NASCAR back to the fairgrounds. While the Titans Stadium was approved by the Metro Council, how will you guide the development around it, and where do you stand on the racetrack proposal? Heidi Campbell.
Yeah, so this racetrack proposal is very problematic. They haven't taken into consideration parking. When I was the mayor of Oak Hill, one of the biggest complaints that I had was from people saying that they heard the sound from the racetrack, and we're talking about increasing the noise pollution. So we do have a NASCAR racetrack, close to our city, and as I understand it, this would be one of the only Bristol Motor Speedway racetracks that's right in the middle of a city, and I think it's problematic for the neighborhood, and it's something that certainly hasn't been designed to the approval of the people who live near it. So I think that that's something that needs a lot of work, if it even should be done. I learned a big lesson when I was mayor of City of Oak Hill, and I had a multimodal plan, and I did not get citizen buy-in, and you would have thought that I was killing puppies. It was like a Williamson County School Board meeting every day. If we're going to do something like that, we need to make sure that it's something that works for the neighborhood, and I don't think that has been done.
Thank you very much. Jim Gingrich.
So the Titans deal is a done deal at this point, but I do think it has important lessons for y'all who are trying to make a choice in this election. Last July, I wrote a letter to the council, published an op-ed explaining the difficulties that I had with the deal as it was structured. Not that I'm against the new stadium, but I thought that was about the worst structured deal that I could imagine. And the fact is, when you think about fiscal responsibility and priorities, the fact that most people on this stage supported that deal says something that you cannot forget. I'll tell you the other thing that about blew my mind is that when we were asked at another station's forum, would you support giving money to bring Major League Baseball, these same folks said it's a bad idea to give public subsidies to billionaires. So look, in terms of the Speedway, it has a lot of issues. The financials aren't strong. The city's going to have to back every dollar of those bonds. It's opposed by people who live in the neighborhood. As Heidi mentioned, there are logistical issues. This is another example of misplaced priorities and doing bad deals. We need to focus on other stuff, like how do we get a Nashville General Hospital in place? The fact that we're not focused on that, and that lease runs out in 27, and it takes 4 years to build a hospital, is an issue.
Vivian Willard?
Well, in reference to the Titans deal, that ship has sailed. But I think as mayor, it's going to be important that the deal details are carried out where it benefits Nashville. Whether it's the East Bank development and how that's supposed to be, or the other items that are within the deal itself, we need to make sure that the deal is carried out the way it should be and it's going to benefit Nashville. Now, we are always doing these super entertainment type deals, but I wonder sometimes, do we ever remember that it is the people that live here that needs to benefit? We need to make sure that whenever these type of entertainment deals, sports deals that are done, that there is benefit for the people, not only just downtown, not just in North Nashville. I live in East Nashville. I want East Nashville to benefit. I want South Nashville to benefit. Those areas need to benefit and feel sometimes what we feel like is not being done. They need to feel as if that they matter. People matter. And whenever we're spending taxpayers' dollars, we need to make sure that they're at the table. So when it comes to the racetrack deal, the noise ordinance is something that needs to be put in place so they can have a good quality of life where they are. I'm not against racing. I love racing.
Thank you very much.
But I want to keep the noise in check for the neighbors that live in that area.
Freddie O'Connell.
Before there was a stadium deal,
there was one of the most important legacies that will come from Mayor Cooper's planning initiatives, which is the East Bank Vision Plan. If you haven't looked at it, it's worth taking a look at. It has a lot of vision for what the East Bank can become, and not just in the footprint of the Titan Stadium, it's bigger than that. It showcases what we can do from River North all the way down through PSC. So as mayor, that's what I want to focus on. We need to get a cluster of brand new urban neighborhoods around the stadium so that it's not just a junior version of our entertainment district. And we do need to come back to that affordable housing that I talked about earlier. And we need the infrastructure decisions we make there to connect into East Nashville and across the river into downtown, not avoiding it entirely. And we need it not to be an extra lane of I-24. We need it to be a connective tissue for a great new set of neighborhoods. But that's not enough. The next mayor is going to have to invest capital there to allow people to play football in 2027. But we need to make sure that we demonstrate to the other 500 square miles of Nashville that we're going to make companion investments there. That's going to be my priority. These deals were not my priority. The NASCAR deal is not my priority. I focused on the priorities I want to start on day one in the budget we just approved. I don't know what's going to happen to the NASCAR deal. I'll review it. What we've seen so far doesn't seem like something that's going to be able to pass in this council. And I look forward to having a future conversation about the fairgrounds. But right now, I'm focused on the priorities of what Nashvillians need.
Thank you. Ellis Rowley?
Yeah, earlier this week, Wallet Hub came out with rankings of the top 149 cities, and it placed Nashville 125th for the management of our city and the management of our finances. But more importantly, it put us dead last, tied with San Francisco and New York, as a city with the largest share of long-term debt per capita. That means deals that have been worked on for decades by a lot of folks on this stage are creating a nearly unsustainable environment for us to build a thriving city. And that debt doesn't include the $760 million in bonds that the Sports Authority will now have to issue with the new Titan Stadium. So I think our big concern here is how have we allowed our budget and our city to be so skewed to burden our children and our grandchildren with decisions that we are not able today to pay for as we're moving forward. And secondly, I think we have to recognize that the balance has moved too far away from the will of the voters. We saw in 2011 that 70% of voters asked for us to continue having fairgrounds racing. And systematically, decades have gone by where we have chosen to place an MLS soccer team there to push racing out, to not look at multiple places in the county. And so I think we have a real issue of trust.
Thank you, Matt Wilshire.
So I grew up not far from here, a few blocks away, and I remember as a kid hearing the sounds of racing as I fell asleep at nights. I visited the Fair Park and rode the rickety wooden roller coaster that was out there. Any Nashville natives will remember that fondly. The fairgrounds has evolved and changed, and I'm a racing fan myself. I do have some concerns about the proposal and putting public dollars into funding an additional investment into a neighborhood. Those are things that need to be explored. It does seem like it's being pushed through pretty quickly in this council, but we'll deal with that when it comes up. In terms of the East Bank, that is an incredible opportunity for our city and one that will be developing over several decades. But the next mayor is going to need to set us on a path to make sure that that area develops in a way that has affordable housing, just like the area that I worked on across the interstate at Casey, so that we have a mix of incomes, folks living together and working together, where we can have housing that's close to the jobs, and an area that develops in a way that's welcoming to families. I mentioned in an earlier answer, having an arts district there, a place where families can go, Nashvillians can enjoy. And those are the things I think we need to be most focused on in the redevelopment of the East Bank. But one thing I'm very concerned about is investing hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure. We need to work with the developers to make sure that that cost is borne more by them than by Nashvillians.
Thank you. Sharon Hurt?
Thank you. You know, I hear about the long debt. You know, some people in this city understand long debt. We kind of call it layaway. But I am so interested. I did vote for the stadium because I was especially happy about the East Bank development. And I was able to put a 25% deal for small minority and women-owned businesses to make sure that we're able to have some other communities share in the wealth. Just like I did with the airport when I was able to talk to Doug Krulin, and he said that he had 13% minority women-owned concessionaires, and now it is 45%. He had $30 million in minority contracting. Now he has $500 million because I've been a chief advocate for that. I think that the city right now needs healing. We've got the stadium deal that was very, very tough. The tornado, COVID, the bombing, and we have a tale of two cities. I think the people need healing, and we need to listen to their voices. I am leaning toward no in terms of the racetrack right now, because the racetrack was there and the community was built around it. And I think we've got to do more in focusing on the people. Again, I am about people, prosperity, and preservation.
Thank you very much. Jeff Yarbrough.
When the Titans Stadium was before us, I sponsored legislation to get your property taxes out of the football stadium business, because I think that's right, and push those dollars onto the hotel taxes and to the development surrounding the stadium. For similar reasons, I'm a little bit skeptical of the racetrack deal because I think it puts the property taxes that we use on police, on education, back at risk. And while I'm a racing fan myself, I think the first job is to make sure that we're safeguarding the dollars that we use to educate our children and maintain a safe, vibrant city. The next mayor unquestionably has to get the East Bank right. It is already in the midst of developing, and it is a unique opportunity to turn on what is now a lot of parking lot space and make it part of our city. You have to do that right by incorporating affordability, incorporating walkability, transit options. You ought to be able to live there as a family near school or as a, sort of a elderly family downsizing without feeling like you're attending a 72-hour bachelorette party every week. We need to make sure that there's actually a high quality of life there. And we need to use those same principles, not just in East Nashville, but across the city. I think the city is ready for us to walk and chew gum at the same time and wants to see just as many late night meetings about the future of Madison and Donaldson as they saw about the future of the East Bank.
Thank you.